Have you ever been fired over coffee? I mean literally, over a paper cup with your client's logo on it? My name is Lanie Cooper, and 3 months ago, I thought I knew exactly where my life was heading. Senior creative strategist at Holloway & Pine, the kind of marketing agency that charged premium rates for authentic brand storytelling. I was good at my job, maybe too good. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I grabbed my usual caramel macchiato from Rustwood Cafe, the cozy little spot I'd helped transform from a struggling corner shop into the neighborhood's beating heart. The sleeve bore their new logo, my design, and their tagline, "Brew bold. Pour back." Walking into Holloway & Pine, I noticed the whispers first. Then the tight smiles. Something felt different, like the air before a storm. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened next. "Lanie, congratulations on the Rustwood success," said Sloane Berkeley, settling into the chair across from my desk. Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. I blinked. "Congratulations?" "The promotion. Senior Account Director." She leaned back, fingers drumming against her designer notebook. "Though I have to say, we're making some strategic pivots." My stomach dropped. "What kind of pivots?" "Well, for starters, we're discontinuing the Rustwood account. New direction. We're focusing on larger corporate clients, national reach with less baggage." I stared at her, clutching my coffee cup tighter. "Discontinuing? But they're our fastest growing client." "The community impact metrics are lovely," Sloane interrupted. "But we need to think bigger picture." The way she said bigger picture made my skin crawl. What was she really saying? 2 hours later, I sat in the sterile conference room, facing Sloane and Janet from HR. The same room where I'd pitched the Rustwood campaign 6 months ago, where I'd convinced everyone that authentic community engagement was the future of marketing. "Lanie, we need to discuss some concerns," Janet began, her voice carefully neutral. "Concerns?" Sloane slid a photograph across the table. It showed me at Rustwood's community event last week, laughing with Gordon Deeks, the owner, while holding one of their branded cups. "External brand conflict," she said smoothly. "An unauthorized use of client branding for personal promotion." My mouth fell open. That's ridiculous. I was representing the agency at their event. You even emailed me the invite confirmation. "The optics are problematic," Janet added. "We've decided to part ways, effective immediately." But there was something in Sloane's eyes, something that told me this wasn't really about a coffee cup at all. 15 minutes later, I sat in my car in the parking garage, cardboard box of personal items in the passenger seat, trying to process what had just happened. Fired. Over coffee. After 5 years building campaigns from scratch, this is how it ends? Or was it? I replayed the meeting in my head. Sloane's smug expression. The way she'd emphasized external brand conflict. The timing, right after her promotion was announced. My phone buzzed. A text from Gordon. "Haven't seen you in a few days. Everything okay?" I stared at the message, then at the Rustwood cup still sitting in my cup holder. The logo I'd designed. The brand I'd helped build from nothing. Maybe everything wasn't okay. But maybe that was exactly what I needed. I started the engine and drove toward the one place that still felt like home. The bell above Rustwood's door chimed as I entered, and Gordon looked up from behind the espresso machine with his usual warm smile. It faltered when he saw my face. "Lanie? What's wrong?" I collapsed into my favorite corner booth, the one with the worn leather seats and the perfect view of the community bulletin board I'd helped design. "They fired me." Gordon set down his cleaning cloth and slid into the seat across from me. "What? Why?" "Officially? Brand conflict. I gestured weakly at the coffee cup. This cup. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Unofficially. I met his eyes. I think Sloan wanted me gone. The Rustwood account was just an excuse. Gordon was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. I've been wondering when you'd see through their politics. What do you mean? His eyes sparkled with something I couldn't quite identify. What if this is our chance to think bigger? Bigger how? I asked, though something in Gordon's tone made my pulse quicken. He stood up and grabbed a notebook from behind the counter, flipping through pages covered in sketches and notes. I've been thinking about this for months. What if Rustwood became more than just a cafe? I'm listening. A community loyalty platform. Every cup supports a local business. Every sleeve tells a story. We become a social impact incubator, connecting people, building real relationships, creating actual change. I felt my creative mind spinning to life. Like a hub for local entrepreneurs? Exactly. And you? He pointed at me with his pen. You have the marketing genius to make it happen. Gordon, I just got fired. I don't exactly have startup capital lying around. Who said anything about capital? His grin was infectious. One of our regulars, Patricia, runs a community fund. She's always asking me if we want to expand. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with possibility. Over the next 2 hours, Gordon and I sketched out a vision that made my heart race. Community partnerships. Local artist collaborations. A membership program that doubled as neighborhood investment. The beauty is, Gordon explained, pulling up spreadsheets on his laptop, we're not just selling coffee. We're selling belonging. I studied his numbers, my strategist brain analyzing the potential. The margins could actually work. If we scale the community partnerships correctly. And you already understand our brand better than anyone. But what about Holloway and Pine? What about non-compete clauses? Gordon's expression grew serious. Lanie, you built this brand. If anyone tries to claim you can't work with us, we'll fight it. I felt something shift inside me, a spark of defiance mixed with genuine excitement. What kind of partnership are we talking about? Sweat equity. Brand development. Community outreach. He paused. Minority co-founder. The words hit me like lightning. Co-founder. After getting fired over a coffee cup, someone was offering me ownership in something real. But was I brave enough to take it? That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, Gordon's offer spinning through my mind. Co-founder. It sounded impossible and perfect and terrifying all at once. By morning, I'd made my decision. I'm in, I told Gordon when he opened the cafe at 6 a.m. But I want to do this right. Full business plan, proper legal structure, clear expectations. His face broke into the biggest smile I'd ever seen. I was hoping you'd say that. We spent the next week crafting our vision into reality. Community partnerships with 6 local businesses. Artist showcases every month. A loyalty program that rewarded social impact alongside coffee consumption. The pilot campaign launched on a Thursday. We launched a targeted local ad blitz, and it worked better than we imagined. By Friday, we had a line out the door. By the following Tuesday, the local newspaper wanted an interview. But success, I was about to learn, comes with its own complications. Local cafe becomes community catalyst, read the headline in the Metro Weekly. Below it, a photo of me and Gordon shaking hands with the mayor outside Rustwood's newly painted storefront. The article called our partnership an innovative model for small business collaboration and mentioned the foot traffic increase. 340% in 2 weeks. My phone buzzed constantly. Interview requests. partnership inquiries. And one call that would change everything. Ms. Cooper? This is Patricia Nolan from Riverside Community Development Fund. We'd like to discuss potential investment opportunities. Investment? We're particularly interested in scalable social impact models. Would you be available for a meeting this afternoon? I looked at Gordon, who was eavesdropping shamelessly while pretending to clean the espresso machine. He nodded enthusiastically. Yes, I said. We'd love to meet. What I didn't know then was that Patricia's fund had recently acquired something very interesting, something that would soon make my former colleagues extremely uncomfortable. Hey, if you're enjoying this wild ride, hit that like button and share this story with someone who needs to believe in second chances. The best part is still coming. Patricia Nolan wasn't what I expected. Mid-50s, silver hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, wearing jeans and a Riverside Community Fund t-shirt. She looked more like someone's favorite teacher than a financial powerhouse. Your model is exactly what we've been looking for, she said, spreading our business plan across the table. Community-centered, locally sustainable, with real measurable impact. Gordon and I exchanged glances. What kind of partnership are you thinking? I asked. Initial funding for expansion. Marketing support. And... She paused, pulling out another folder. Potential access to our community turnaround program. Turnaround? We help turn sinking ships into community anchors. Sometimes that means acquisition. Sometimes it means complete operational overhaul. Something in her tone made me lean forward. What kind of businesses? Patricia's smile was almost predatory. Oh, all kinds. Marketing agencies, for instance. My heart stopped. Marketing agencies? Funny thing about Holloway and Pine, she continued casually. They've been having some cash flow issues lately. Cash flow issues? I managed to ask, though my voice sounded strange to my own ears. Patricia nodded, flipping through documents. 3 major clients pulled out last month. Something about tone-deaf messaging that went viral. Word is, Sloan pushed it through without market testing. Sound familiar? I remembered seeing something on social media, a campaign that had backfired spectacularly, generating angry responses and boycott threats. I hadn't paid much attention at the time. They defaulted on their expansion loan last week, Patricia continued. The loan held by... Let me guess, I said, pieces clicking into place. Riverside Community Development Fund. Among others. We recently acquired their debt portfolio as part of our Community Business Stabilization Initiative. Gordon was staring at both of us like we were speaking a foreign language. What does this mean? Patricia's smile grew wider. It means, Ms. Cooper, that you might have more leverage than you think. The room felt like it was spinning. My former employer, the company that had fired me over a coffee cup, was in financial trouble. And somehow, through a series of impossible coincidences, I now had a connection to the people who held their debt. But this was just the beginning. 2 days later, at exactly 2:17 p.m., the same time my badge had been deactivated at Holloway and Pine, my phone rang. Lanie Cooper? The voice was unfamiliar, professional. Speaking. This is James Fletcher from Riverside Community Development Fund. Patricia mentioned you might be interested in a consulting opportunity. My hands started trembling. What kind of consulting? We have a marketing agency that needs some guidance. Strategic restructuring. Getting back to authentic community engagement. Sound familiar? I looked across the cafe at Gordon, who was watching me intently. Wait, how did you get my name? Patricia was quite impressed with your Rustwood model. Plus, who better to restructure a marketing agency than someone who understands both authentic community engagement and their current operational challenges? Are we talking about Holloway and Pine? Indeed. They're in a rather difficult position. Default proceedings begin next week unless they can demonstrate a viable turnaround plan. And you want me to help them? We want you to lead the restructuring. Full decision-making authority. Of course, you'd be compensated appropriately. I closed my eyes, trying to process what was happening. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Walking into Holloway and Pine 3 weeks after being escorted out felt surreal. Same lobby, same pretentious art on the walls, same receptionist who now looked at me with confused recognition. Lanie? I thought you were consulting, I said smoothly. Conference room be available? In the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished steel doors. I looked different. Confident in a way I'd never been as an employee. Amazing what ownership could do for your posture. The conference room filled slowly. Janet from HR looked uncomfortable. Several account executives whispered among themselves. And then Sloane walked in, her face a mask of carefully controlled surprise. Lanie. We knew the fund had new leadership, but we didn't expect you. To see me again? I pulled out Patricia's folder and set it on the table. Funny how things work out. I don't understand what you're doing here. I smiled, remembering every condescending word she'd said during my termination. I'm here to save your jobs. The room went dead silent. Save our jobs? Sloane's voice was sharp. What are you talking about? I opened the folder and spread the loan documents across the table. Riverside Community Development Fund now holds your debt. I represent their interests in this restructuring. Restructuring? Janet squeaked. I nodded, pulling out the proposal I'd spent the last week crafting. Holloway and Pine has 2 options. Option 1, default proceedings continue, the company dissolves, everyone loses their jobs. Sloane's face had gone pale. And option 2? Merger with the Poor Collective, that's Rustwood's parent company. Full operational restructuring. Retraining for staff who want to stay. Cultural reboot prioritizing authentic community engagement over corporate buzzwords. You can't be serious, Sloane said. This is ridiculous. The numbers don't lie. I slid the financial analysis across the table. You're 3 weeks from bankruptcy. The Poor Collective is cash positive and growing. This isn't revenge, Sloane. It's business. And if we refuse? I shrugged. Then you'll be job hunting by next Friday. The room erupted in whispered conversations. I watched faces processing the reality of their situation. Some looked relieved. Others angry. Sloane just looked stunned. I need time to think, she said finally. Riverside needs a decision for quarterly reporting, I replied, standing to leave. You have until tomorrow morning. Oh, and Sloane? She looked up, her usual confident mask finally slipping. Thanks for firing me over that coffee cup. Best thing that ever happened to me. The next morning, I arrived at Holloway and Pine to find Sloane's office empty, her personal items gone. According to Janet, she'd cleaned out her desk sometime after midnight and left a resignation letter. She said she couldn't work for. Janet paused, looking embarrassed. Well, she said some things I won't repeat. I wasn't surprised. Sloane's ego couldn't handle the reversal of fortune. But as I looked around the room at the remaining staff, junior executives, creative coordinators, the talented people who'd been overshadowed by her political maneuvering, I felt a surge of possibility. So, I said, addressing the group. Who wants to build something real? 12 hands went up. Over the next 2 hours, we outlined the transition. Rustwood's community model scaled across 6 markets. Local business partnerships in each location. A talent development program that prioritized creativity over corporate climbing. What about the name? Asked Emma, one of the junior creatives. I smiled. Holloway and Pine becomes the community engagement division of the Poor Collective. We keep what worked, and fix what didn't. And you'll be running it? We'll be running it, I corrected. Together. It felt good to say. But the best part was still coming. 6 months later, I stood in the renovated Holloway and Pine offices, now bright, open, with local art on the walls and a coffee bar serving Rustwood blends. Through the window, I could see the new community garden we'd sponsored across the street. The Poor Collective had grown to 14 employees across 3 locations. We'd launched community engagement campaigns for 23 local businesses. Our brew bold, pour back model was being studied by business schools as an example of sustainable social impact marketing. And every 2 weeks, I signed paychecks for the former Holloway and Pine staff, the ones who'd chosen growth over pride. Emma knocked on my office door, holding a stack of proposals. 3 new partnership requests, she said. Including one from that big corporate firm downtown, you know, the one that poached our old client last year? I laughed. Send them our standard community impact requirements. If they want authentic engagement, they'll have to earn it like everyone else. And if they don't? Then they'll learn what I learned sitting in that conference room 6 months ago. What's that? I picked up my Rustwood coffee cup, the same design I'd been fired for carrying. Sometimes losing everything is the best thing that can happen to you. That afternoon, I drove to the original Rustwood location for our weekly founders meeting. Gordon was behind the counter, training a new barista on the community loyalty system we'd developed. Look who's become a big shot, he teased as I walked in. Says the man who owns 3 cafes and sits on 2 community development boards. Touché. He poured my usual caramel macchiato. Any regrets? I thought about it seriously. About getting fired? No. About trusting that it would lead somewhere better? Never. Even when Sloan tried to sue for wrongful termination? Especially then. The lawsuit had fizzled after the first hearing once Patricia's legal team explained the documentation. Some people never learn that burning bridges has consequences. Gordon nodded toward the community board, now covered with success stories from local businesses we'd helped launch. Think she'll ever figure out what she missed? Honestly? I hope so. Everyone deserves a second chance to choose growth over ego. But as I looked around the thriving cafe, filled with neighbors working on laptops, families sharing afternoon treats, and entrepreneurs pitching ideas over coffee, I knew that some lessons could only be learned the hard way. The bell chimed as new customers entered, and I smiled. Another day, another chance for someone to discover what authentic community could build. Today marks exactly 1 year since I was fired over a coffee cup. I'm writing this from my office at the Poor Collective headquarters, the building we bought from Riverside Community Development Fund with our expansion profits. The irony isn't lost on me. The company that fired me for carrying a client's branded cup now operates as a division of that same client's parent company. Every success story features the logo I designed. Every paycheck bears my signature. But the real victory isn't the role reversal. It's what we built from the ashes of that humiliation. The Poor Collective now operates in 12 cities, employing 47 people, supporting over 200 local businesses. We've proven that profit and purpose aren't mutually exclusive, that authentic community engagement isn't just good marketing, it's good business. Last week, Emma brought me a proposal from a major national chain wanting to license our community model. The contract would make us all wealthy beyond our original dreams. I'm still deciding. Maybe someday. But not until I know they care about people like we do. Not because the money isn't tempting, but because I've learned something valuable this year. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's building something so meaningful that the original slight becomes irrelevant. Would I change anything about that Tuesday morning when Sloane fired me over coffee? Not a chance. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the doorway to everything you never knew you wanted. If this story inspired you to believe in the power of reinvention, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us share more stories of people who turned their setbacks into comebacks. Remember, every ending is a new beginning in disguise.